Good Wednesday morning. It's time for your farm news on the Ohio AgNet. Broadcasting from the voice you know with the News You Trust studio. Sponsored by BASF and Valtima Fungicide. The proven #1 for the toughest corn diseases with long-lasting residual when you need to be confident your fungicide will perform. I'm Joel Norwood. Looking to be a nice day, especially a good one for feeding farmers. We're our own Ty Higgins heading out for the midday show, sponsored by Paradise Energy Solutions, Timpty Trailers of Sydney, and presented by Ag Revolution. Disrupting traditional farm service by putting farmers first, they bring the dealership to you with mobile on-farm service for all brands, supported by Fenton and Massey Ferguson as your full-service agriculture partner. And don't forget to join us on Monday as well. We get an update from Ohio Corn and Wheat about the great work being done to represent Ohio's grain farmers at the state and national levels. And as you're filling out your calendars, put on there to not miss out on the Dye Real Estate and Land Company's July consignment auction. That's coming up July 14th at the Putnam County Fairgrounds. To learn more, go to dyerealestate.com or call 419-721-3497. And also visit the Greenville Farm Power of the Past at the Darke County Fairgrounds. That's coming up tomorrow, goes through Saturday, July 9th through 11th. Learn more at greenvillefarmpower.org. Well, let's talk farm news, and the news feed is delivered to you by Ebert's Field Seeds, delivering proven local seed performance to Ohio farmers. It's time to start planting Ebert's. Call us at 937-473-2521 or visit online at ebertseeds.com. We start today with news on the international front as two U.S. ag groups pushing for tougher trade action against Brazil. The Renewable Fuels Association says it is supporting tariffs on Brazilian ethanol imports. They argue Brazil's own trade barriers have sharply reduced U.S. ethanol exports, and the RFA says U.S. ethanol sales to Brazil fell to zero in 2023 before only modestly recovering the last 2 years. Meanwhile, the U.S. Cattlemen's Association urging an additional 25% tariff on Brazilian beef and other bovine products. They say Brazil's cattle sector benefits from unfair advantages tied to environmental, labor, and corruption concerns, putting American cattle producers at a disadvantage. That timing is not random for both of those issues. It's coming to the forefront now because Brazil is currently under a U.S. Section 301 trade review, and agriculture groups are using that process to get their issues on the record before tariff decisions are finalized. Online today at ohioagnet.com, soybean researchers looking at practical management tools to reduce sudden death syndrome, or SDS. That's a disease in the soil common in Ohio and across the Midwest and hits soybeans particularly hard. Kansas State plant pathologist Rodrigo Onofre is leading Soy Checkoff-supported research looking at row spacing, seeding rates, and variety selection, how that impacts SDS. Early results suggesting that it might be more severe in higher plant populations and narrower 15-inch rows. They're also looking at a predictive model to help farmers assess risk of sudden death syndrome months before planting when seed decisions are being made. That full story online at ohioagnet.com. Also there, an invitation for the Tuesday, July 28th Land Expo in Lima. That's an educational seminar focused on farm succession, farmland markets, tax-saving opportunities, hosted by Dye Real Estate and Land Company. Again, details at ohioagnet.com. More farm news in a moment, but let's talk about the weather, thanks to Seed Genetics Direct, the #1 fastest growing and largest Ohio-based independent seed company. Let's hear from Ryan.
Another pleasant day over a large part of Ohio. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Quick forecast update for you here. Mostly looking at sunshine and blue sky for your Wednesday. Now, we still see this heat-based disturbance where afternoon thunderstorms can pop up pretty much at will down in parts of Kentucky and Tennessee. And maybe a few of those try and sneak across the Ohio River and far south-central parts of Ohio this afternoon, early evening. Otherwise, the rest of the state looks pretty doggone good here for today. Tomorrow, not too shabby either. We are seeing temperatures climb, humidity values climb a little bit, and a few more clouds for your Thursday. In my mind, the best precipitation comes together overnight Thursday night and especially through Friday and into early Saturday. Right now, penciling in anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch with about 60 to 70% coverage across the state of Ohio. Behind that, we dry down for Saturday afternoon and Sunday. Next week, much warmer, more humid, but no precipitation through a large part of the week, at least until next Friday. I'm Ryan Martin.
And our next story focuses on often one of the most valuable teammates of any farm operation out there. That's right, the farm dog. Joe Everett has more.
If you think your farm dog has what it takes to be named Farm Dog of the Year, the American Farm Bureau Federation has the contest for you. Terry Moore, Vice President of Communications for AFBF, said the contest is about honoring the vital place dogs hold on many family farms.
So this is our 9th year of celebrating the role of farm dogs on the farm. So both as an active participant in the farm operation and also as a companion and family pet. Really what it is a chance to celebrate the role that dogs play and to help the public kind of see what it's like on the farm.
Moore said Farm Bureau and contest sponsor Nestle Purina Pet Care are looking for a few key characteristics in the next Farm Dog of the Year.
So we are looking for dogs that both play a role in the farm operation, whether that's herding cattle, closing gates, guarding against predators, whatever that might be, and also as a companion to the family and family pet. Many dogs play both roles, and it's fun to see all the different candidates that we get in to help celebrate that and the role they play.
Moore said the contest is a great way to bridge the knowledge gap between consumers and farmers and ranchers.
We live in a time when the vast majority of the U.S. population has no connection to a farm, but they love their pets. We all love our pets. And so the Farm Dog of the Year contest gives us a unique connection point to give those folks who want to see how a pet on the farm might operate, gives them a window into agriculture in general.
You can learn more and apply for the contest at fb.org/farmdog. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Joe Everett reporting.
And thank you, Joe. Stay tuned. We'll take a quick break here on the Ohio AgNet and look at more farm news coming up next.
Are you looking for the latest in Ohio agriculture? Well, you can get it all in one place, the Ohio AgNet Podcast. Join us as we sit down with farmers, experts, and ag leaders from across the Buckeye State. From the latest news to interviews that matter, we're here to keep you informed and connected. Whether you're in the tractor, the truck, or the shop, we bring the conversation to you. Search Ohio AgNet Podcast on your favorite app or find it on Facebook or YouTube. Don't miss a minute of the Ohio AgNet Podcast. Subscribe today.
New World screwworm continues to be a topic on the minds of many livestock producers, even though it's a concern mostly down in the southern border states. It's something that can really impact markets as it continues to spread in Texas and more. So what do we need to know? Well, our own Allison Kinney gives us the update.
Joining me today is Rissa Pesapane, Associate Professor at The Ohio State University. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Rissa specializes or has a focus in New World screwworm. So for those that may not be familiar, what is New World screwworm?
Well, New World screwworm is a fly that lays its eggs in the wounds of warm-blooded animals. So once those eggs hatch, those are larvae or maggots, they're going to feed on living tissue by screwing or burrowing into the wounds, which is why it has that name. And it makes those wounds progressively worse, which can lead to death of the animal sometimes.
Why are experts concerned about it right now, even in places like Ohio where it's currently not established?
It's really important that everyone, including those in Ohio, be on high alert for New World screwworm because it's highly likely that we'll see cases far away from the source before this is over. And that's because of the large scale and rapid pace that we move domestic animals around the United States. What's in Texas today could be in Ohio tomorrow. And this is why authorities are implementing strict livestock movement restrictions in those affected areas. Although most cases in the U.S. thus far have been on livestock, dogs are also a concern. And that's because Mexico reports a significant number of cases in dogs, and we often move dogs more freely around the U.S. than we do our livestock.
So if it were to spread further through the United States or into Ohio, what kinds of impacts would producers expect?
Well, let's start by dispelling a couple of myths. What we would not see is destruction of animals, nor the restriction of sale and transport of animal products. Destruction of animals is not recommended for control of a screwworm outbreak. And that's because we have effective treatments and animals do recover. Because the impact of screwworm depends on adult flies laying eggs in openings in an animal's body, it's not contagious from animal to animal. It's also not a food safety risk, meaning there's no risk that can come from consuming products from an animal that's had screwworm. So the impact or response with screwworm involves quarantining an area for some period of time, treating all the affected animals, and then once they have recovered, these animals may enter the food supply chain, presuming, they meet all the standard criteria, or they might be able to be transported once there are no new detections of screwworm flies in the area. But it's certainly a very painful condition for animals, and it's definitely going to be a major disruption for producers. So it's definitely not something you want to get, but it's not the end of business.
So as we talk about, transporting and moving, what are the warning signs that farmers or producers should be watching for in their animals?
So we're asking producers to be extra alert for things like wounds or other types of body cavities that have a really foul odor that's kind of like rotting flesh, or any discharge, any of those with maggots present, if you're seeing white egg-like structures around the edges of those wounds. Sometimes from a distance, one of the early signs might be livestock biting or licking at the wound, maybe frequently shaking their head or rubbing against objects more than usual. Affected individuals can initially show a decreased appetite. They might be lethargic. They might isolate themselves from the herd. And it's important to note that when we say wounds, this is including these opportunistic openings following certain practices like dehorning or branding, castration, even tick bites or the umbilical cords of newborn animals. So the things we're asking people to watch for are signs that are caused by many other things. So what we're stressing is that if you're seeing them, that warrants a closer inspection.
Worst case scenario, something happens and it's detected. What agencies or systems are in place for producers to track and respond if it was to be detected?
The good news is there's a whole network of people ready to help. Producers should not be afraid to report suspect cases. If you see a wound on an animal that seems suspicious, like it has that foul odor or you're seeing maggots, call your veterinarian immediately for a closer inspection. It's really important that you get a professional opinion because not all maggots or foul odors in wounds are New World screwworm. So if your veterinarian agrees that it's possibly screwworm, they will contact the state animal health official or the area veterinarian in charge who can launch a formal investigation.
What's a key takeaway that you want Ohio producers to understand about this threat?
I want Ohioans to know that eradicating screwworm from the U.S. again is likely going to be a long battle, and that we should be prepared to see cases in our state at some point. But importantly, I also want to stress that we have very effective solutions to combat this pest, and that is why we are being so aggressive with the messaging about early detection and reporting. It's entirely possible to squash this problem before it becomes a bigger issue for our state.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Rissa.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll talk market numbers and how things are shaping up overnight as the Ohio AgNet continues up next.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered. Always online and always no reserve. It's your destination for construction or ag equipment ready to work. We even sell semis, trailers, and fleet equipment for your operation. Best part? It's free to join. Head to purplewave.com. That's purplewave.com. Sign up for a free account and start bidding today. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
This morning's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company, excited to bring a brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC at 574-566-2113. Over to Ryan for more.
Grain markets finished the Tuesday trading session mostly in the green, but it was a tough time getting there. As a matter of fact, through a large part of the day, we saw corn and beans trading back in the red just a little bit before finally accelerating into the close with about a 5 to 9 cent gain on beans and about 5 to 6 cents, 5 to 7 on corn. Wheat markets were stronger in Chicago all day, but Kansas City only turned green late. The FAS announced on Tuesday morning that exporters had sold about 100,000 metric tons of soy meal to Colombia. However, the key to the marketplace yesterday and the reason why we were kind of chopping back and forth was there was no confirmation of the rumored Chinese buying of soybeans on Monday. That doesn't mean it didn't happen, but there was no confirmation. Weather was also a big part of the market to start this week. That did not change as heat continues to build under an upper-level ridge across the central U.S. and eastern Corn Belt for next week. I'm Ryan Martin.
Let's take a look at the latest numbers from Chicago. Overnight showing mixed to higher for grains and overall lower for livestock from Tuesday's close. July corn overnight down 2 1/4 to 4.40 1/4. December new crop corn from the Chicago Board of Trade up 1/4 cent to 4.64 1/2. July soybeans at last check up 2 1/4 to 11.99 per bushel. New crop beans 1 3/4 cents up to 11.99 1/2. July wheat sitting at 6.12 per bushel. That's a 2 3/4 cent gain. If you've got wheat for the September contract, that'll be 6.21 1/2 from Chicago, a 3 cent gain overnight. August live cattle down 68 cents to 238.43. September feeder cattle dropping 48 cents to 357.40 per hundredweight from Tuesday's close. July lean hogs ended a dime higher to 93.45. $1.65, but August not so lucky, down $1.60 to $96.93. And milk class 3 for August sitting at $16.35, a drop of 4 cents. Find more farm news online at ohioagnet.com. I'm Joel Penordwood. We thank you for tuning in to the Ohio AgNet.